if you have coronavirus symptoms, however mild, either a new continuous cough or a high temperature, then you should stay at home for at least 7 days to protect others and help slow the spread of the disease. We advise all those over 70 with serious medical conditions against going on holidays, and we advise against unusual school trips. At some point in the next few weeks, we are likely
Jam 1.
In the many years I've spent being a twat on the internet, I've often been called a contrarian because people frequently mistake my shit opinions for insincere ones. When I say I love Aero the Acrobat and Alfred Chicken and Frogger Helmet Chaos, I'm not ever just saying it, it's true. It is all absolutely true. I don't want to be provocative in a negative way, there's plenty of that on YouTube already. Having said that, one of my takes that seems to trouble people is my appreciation of limited live systems, specifically the full-on game over fail state in games. This is broadly considered a relic of the past, and I think I understand why. Taking into account that our past was our childhood, when we had a lot of time and few responsibilities, we could tolerate those restarts. Now, as adults with jobs presumably, relationships maybe, even children God forbid, and many other commitments otherwise, we have to manage our leisure time more carefully, which gives rise to the valid criticism of a video game not respecting the player's time, and booting you to a failure screen is a good example of that. It's a view I don't share, but I understand and appreciate it. For me, it's not so much a standard games should be hard thing, but more that for me personally, constant repetitions of the same scenario without any kind of straight up you lose try again built-in opportunity to regroup leads to extensive frustration. Now you'll probably be thinking, how is dying and losing progress less frustrating than dying and having to repeat from a closer checkpoint? And yeah, I hear you, but getting knocked back, going to the title screen, that's me done, and that's something I respond to differently than ultimately bludgeoning my head against the wall, figuratively speaking. When I played Super Meat Boy, or more recently Celeste, and died 400 times on a single level in one sitting, I'd be almost in a fugue state. I'd hit a wall, I'd start making dumb mistakes, I'd be kind of angry for like an hour, like hot-headed, squeezing the control pad when I failed, just in general discomfort, and when I finally succeeded I'd feel some measure of success. Sure, the tension would kind of evaporate, but not entirely. And when I play something that can kick you to the curb, so to speak, that's giving me pause, deliberate, literal pause. I'm thinking, okay, I've got 3 goes at this, and I'll try different things, or variable things on each of those 3 goes, and then if I fail, as I'm working my way through the level again, I'll be thinking about a new approach, or something on the level I may have missed before, will prompt me to try something else. For that matter, and again this is a broad statement and largely speculation, I think that giving the player infinite lives has a pronounced effect on level design. Stuff that would normally be considered unreasonably difficult will get a pass because you can just bang your head against it till you succeed. And that's fun, right? I mean, if the game is fun, then sure, I guess. But I think a lot of platform games in particular would benefit from balancing their difficulty to account for a game over screen. They even removed 1-ups from Super Mario Odyssey to great acclaim, and the result was the most toothless game in the series. I mean, sure, you'd have 99 lives in those games anyway, but those 99 could still be extinguished. Plus you lose the value of 1-ups of finding an item that isn't an unlockable or a trinket, but a genuinely valuable, useful, optional pickup. I think about how you feel when an enemy drops an extra life in Mega Man 3. You want to kiss the game right on its dirty mouth, right? The closest you can get to that now, outside of increasingly scarce traditional life systems, is finding an Estus shard in Dark Souls or similar. Of course, there are exceptions and outliers. I just hope this helps to explain why I like life systems and think they're ultimately beneficial for video games. Next time maybe I'll take a swing at why I dislike save states in retro re-releases and alienate myself even further from my audience. After all, you only live once. In a good game.
Tomorrow is the day you die.
So, in the beginning, there was heavy metal, the greatest thing to have ever existed and the pinnacle of all human endeavour. And eventually, there was also video games, and it was good. Except, actually, it wasn't good, it was a really dark time. Because when video games were invented, some tall fucking poser decided that these two great things should never meet. And because of this mandate, you had two incredible worlds that were like two star-crossed lovers forbidden from touching because their parents were racist as fuck. And so for ages, the only games that existed were either Pong or Truck Driver Simulator. Then one day, the god of heavy metal decided that enough was enough. I'm going to tear down the Berlin Wall, and heavy metal and video games shall at last be allowed to meet. And so, Shadow of the Beast 2 happened. Chapter 1. The intro for Shadow of the Beast 2 for the Amiga. Do you remember Shadow of the Beast? Like, senior beards will, like, wistfully gaze at the horizon and lament a bygone era when games had rich imaginative environments and dark, fantastical stories reminiscent of Steve Jackson fighting fantasy and Dungeons and Dragons. But they're actually wrong because the games kind of sucked. Shadow of the Beast 1 was kind of shit. Shadow of the Beast 2 was kind of shit. Shadow of the Beast 3 was so kind of shit that it made my dad say fuck. And the recent one for the PS4 was, actually, that one was kind of okay. Anyway, the intro for Shadow of the Beast 2. So, it doesn't start off promising because there's words on the screen, and you're like, no. But if you get past the words, stuff starts happening. So there's this cottage in the middle of nowhere, some absolute shithole. It all looks really bleak and lifeless and blah. And inside this cottage, there's this woman with a striking baby. And just when you're thinking between reading and fucking babies, this is not a very metal way to start a game, whoosh! You cut over to the top of a nearby mountain where there's this huge rad as fuck wizard dude, and he's got horns and black robes and a huge stick with a skull on it, and he's looking down at this cottage and he's like, fuck that baby, I fucking hate babies, like fuck them. So the wizard shoots himself in the head with a laser from his skull stick and he transforms into a fucking huge, fucking awesome, fucking dragon bird thing. And he swoops down and he's like, fuck this house, fuck this woman, and especially fuck this baby. This baby is mine now. I'm taking this shitty baby off to my shitty evil place to do shitty things to him, and fuck you if you have a problem with it. And it turns out that you're playing as this nude bloke who has a problem with it, so he goes off to punch the shit out of him. And at this point, the good bit of the game ends, because then it just cuts to you getting the shit kicked out of you by dudes in a forest. And I can never get past the dude with the ball, either. The game over music is pretty good, though. Here, have a listen.
You fool.
He's gonna play the video games. He doesn't like the video games. He's a furious video games man.
The square of a hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the square of the other two sides. That is mental. Paying for mods over my dead body.
I have you now.
For reasons I have been unable to nail down, possibly a combination of Jurassic Park and the live-action Flintstones movie, the games industry used to be obsessed with cavemen. For a couple of years you couldn't swing a saber-toothed cat without hitting some sort of prehistoric platformer, some Neolithic Nintendo, some Stone Age Sega, some Cro-Magnon character action game. That's enough, I'll stop. Anyway, I decided it's my damn duty to cover the bizarre fixation on early man that characterised a lot of software in the early 90s. Codemasters seemed to earnestly want their shockingly uninteresting Big Nose the Caveman character to be a thing. The original Big Nose the Caveman hit the NES most prominently, releasing in 1991 for a bunch of systems, but none of them are really worth playing. It's an extremely basic Stone Age platformer where you tool around collecting bones. I don't know why, because he's a caveman, I guess. They also made a sequel for some reason, Big Nose Freaks Out. I would freak out if I was a kid and I spent money on this. Oh, who am I kidding? It's me. I would have rinsed it, played it for 1,000 hours. They also made Dino Basher starring Big Nose the Caveman for the Master System, but after bad reviews it got cancelled. That's pretty funny to me. It's like, well, we've made this whole game, but it got 40% in Sega Power, let's just not bother releasing it. I don't know, maybe that was financially sensible, but it's still pretty funny. So yeah, Big Nose crashed and burned, but he himself shouldn't feel too bad about it. After all, you know what they say about people with big noses. We are not conventionally attractive.
I can see you in fragments.
Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc is a depraved psychosexual high school kill frenzy aimed squarely at degenerate social misfits. I love it. It's 80% visual novel, 10% investigating murders, and 10% ridiculous Phoenix Wright on steroids trials where you turn arguments into physical bullets and shoot holes in your opponent's testimony. The logic is often flawed and a decent amount of frustration can emerge from the game. For example, asking what's strange about a piece of evidence when multiple things are strange about it, but you're supposed to pick a specific one. In most situations, brute force isn't just viable, it's encouraged, because your punishment for running out of chances is minimal. The gameplay of Danganronpa is not the draw, it's the fucked up situation, insane characters, and seeing just how much further the game is prepared to go. And it goes far, it's a dark, dark game. Totally absurd, but also genuinely shocking. When you think it's played its most horrifying card, it somehow finds a way to be even grosser. And just to be clear, I mean by design, not in its extremely unfortunate treatment of LGBT issues. I put that down to a cultural disparity rather than any pointed attempts to dehumanize or undermine oppressed people. The problem is that clumsiness makes the rest of the game's sick content seem part and parcel with the ignorance, when I don't think it is. If you can stomach some ugly, ignorant, sort of thoughtless stuff, and invest in the trashiness of the rest of the game's atmosphere, you'll have a ball with Danganronpa. The sequels, Danganronpa 2 Goodbye Despair and Danganronpa Another Episode Ultra Despair Girls, are similar in that their gameplay is weak, but the characterization and story keep you playing. I haven't played the final game, Danganronpa V3 Killing Harmony, yet, but I have been reliably informed that it is pants on head bananas, so that's a treat for me to look forward to. Danganronpa, it's a big pile of stupid anime bollocks with a side order of video nasty gruesomeness. Problematic fave.
You can never win.
Did you know that the excellent Ms. Pac-Man started life as a bootleg named Crazy Otto? Well, this is it. This is Crazy Otto. Look at him. Think of the world that we could have had. Look at his little leggies. How is he not better than Pac-Man? Okay, Ms. Pac-Man has a bow, but she doesn't have legs, despite obviously being sexy as hell. Crazy Otto, though, his pumping little pins really make you feel the horrendous panic of his situation. Getting pursued through that maze by whatever these things are. You're in there with him, you know? Just those legs give you pause, don't they? You're thinking right now, I can't relate to Pac-Man. He's just a big, round, fat, bald ball who constantly eats. Okay, I can relate to Pac-Man, but Crazy Otto is at least the physical match of most normal humans. I respect Crazy Otto far more than his more well-known brother and the sister that he eventually became. I'm thinking of you in there, Crazy Otto. Crazy Otto, folks. Crazy Otto for Smash Bros.
Live for me.
Prince of Persia Warrior Within was heavily criticised on release for its diversion into grimdark, edgelord, bare-ass, man made out of crows, heavy metal, bloody sword combat, when the original game was more a sort of run on some walls and do some jumping. The problem is, if you don't think that arses, guys made out of crows, and hacking monsters up with swords are cool, I don't want to know you. Warrior Within is awesome, and it always has been. That's this entire bit, I have no further argument.
Don't die, Strider.
I don't really care about microtransactions. If anything, I quite like them. I mean, I get it, I understand the concern with your kids getting hold of your phone and that. And like, I'm not a dad, so I'm not going to start with, oh, just don't let the kid touch your stuff, as if I know what I'm talking about. Relatively recently, gamers have been showing their asses over Crash Team Racing Nitro Fuel because they added a real money currency system to that, and I'm like, great, I can get all the guys without like finishing the game with all the relics or whatever. At the moment I'm hoping they let me buy Entropy, who you can only get by beating his best time on every track, which that's not happening. And he's my favourite Crash villain, let me buy him, I don't care. the Resident Evil 2 remake as well. I didn't like that game. I thought it was bad for, several reasons. Then they released a DLC that gives you an infinite ammo rocket launcher and minigun, and that's like skipping 2 unlockables, whatever, but I bought that, £4, and now the game is actually fun. I don't feel like I've been exploited. Would it have been better if it was a cheat code? Yeah, for sure, but we don't live in that world anymore. And rather than make raging videos lamenting it, I just bought the coins, man. If I'm killing the industry, I'm sorry.
Hello, it's me, your internet friend Stuart Jam, from Stuart Jam in Video World and Stuart Jam, which you've just watched, which is the same as Video World. Friends of mine say that I've screwed up my branding. They're right. I'm also from sites like Retronauts and Nintendo Life, but who gives a shit? Anyway, I'm sorry it's been a long time since I've done one of these videos, but as you know, there's a virus, and I've been ordered to sort of stay away from everyone until that clears up. So I've had a lot of time to work on videos. I'm not talking about the coronavirus. It's yeah, I'm gonna die.
Who might you be?